up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Whiskey Morgue podcast, where we talk about the whiskey we're drinking, the horror we're watching. I'm your host, Mike, and tonight I am joined by a very special group, Barry, John, and Ty. They are Boos, Brews, and BBQ. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Doing
Good.
well. How about
Awesome.
yourself?
I'm doing well. I mean, before we jumped on here, just to keep us up to a speed here, they just got to the Airbnb. And John hops on. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, we're just setting up for a second, but we just found that we're in a double murder house. Very fitting for what you guys, but that wasn't planned.
Wasn't planned, and apparently I'm in the actual bedroom that it happened, so that should be fun.
That is perfect. So a couple of things that I want to get out of the way here. Before we get into anything, I was ready to get on the show, and I went out and I went and bought some beer. And what I love is that you guys decided you would go out shopping and buy some bourbon. So I really appreciate that we're on the same page. And you know what? Once I saw you had the bourbon, I was like, well, I need to get some bourbon too. Um, it's a Sunday. I got to work tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's okay. The students can watch a movie. That's fine. Um,
Every day is a good day for bourbon. It's fine.
yeah. Bourbon's an everyday thing. I try to get something. So you guys landed in Bowling Green, or that's where you're staying right now.
Yep.
Mhm.
I try to get something close. So this is from Owensboro. So it's
Yeah.
neighboring somewhat.
Yeah,
Green River,
not
really
too
good
far
stuff.
away.
Yeah, and then it made me think too when I was buying the beer, I was like, I should have just done beer morgue the whole time. Like I loved craft beer, like seeing what you guys do, like I'm super envious. And it'd be a lot fucking cheaper to pair weekly a few beers and a movie than than what I'm doing with a new whiskey bottle all the time.
Sure.
And somehow I've
Well,
sustained it for 5 years. I don't know how.
it was funny. Like the booze part of our show, we automatically geared it towards beer, but not realizing booze encompasses everything. So it's like we've just been fortunate to do a lot of the brewery stuff, but we're not opposed to doing the whiskey stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do tequila. Barry does. But
No,
stuff
my
like
wife does.
yes, stuff like that, where I'm just kind of like, but booze encompasses everything. So it's kind of awesome to actually change
Vodka
up a
would be
bit.
good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought about that because there's that play on words with the booze, right? So we're gonna make this work. So this is like the first time we're kind of gonna play off like the booze brews. So we have a little bit of bourbon, we have a little bit of beer. I'm gonna dabble in both, and we're gonna have a good time. So you mentioned the beer part about how this came into it. Yeah, John's like, all right. So we mentioned the beer part. I know a bit about the three of you, but if you want to speak to kind of like the genesis of this project and how it came together and how you guys connected and decided to launch what would I hope it's eventually going to be a TV show. We'll talk about that in terms of
Yep.
release, but how did this come together?
It's pretty organic. So John and I, obviously I'm the drummer for Shinedown, and John works with us as a head of security. And so we were on the road, and we're always trying to find cool places and haunted things, and we're always chat about, hey, this would be cool to do, this would be cool to do, and this kind of brainstormed out of that. And then we met Ty a while back through his barbecue stuff. And then, come to find out he's also a filmographer and interested in this. We became fast friends, and it kind of was like, hey, what do you think about this idea? He's like, yeah, I'm in. And it just kind of spiraled from there. And we just went for it. And I think we filmed 4 episodes so far, or 3.
This is our fourth.
This will be the 4th
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get a bunch together before we, shop them around or whatever. But if anything, it's more of a passion project for us because we all have our real jobs. This is just fun.
Yeah, this is a good time, except
That-
for the places we go.
Well, we're definitely going to get into the places you go and where you've been so far. Like it's funny because I'll mention this like with John. So kind of doing some research, John, you do a lot of things, man. Like I was trying to figure out like your title, and you wear many, many hats, and kudos to you because like there's the security, the podcast, the poetry projects. So yeah, when I was trying to like, I was even going to get an intro and kind of tag
OnlyFans.
each of you.
Only
Forget,
fan-
don't forget his OnlyFans.
Yeah.
They did offer to do this
Shameless
topless.
plug.
So
Yeah.
do I have to wire you money if we take our shirts off?
Yeah, for sure. Only for feet pics.
Only for Pete.
Feet are gold right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been a few places, and it's cool because that's how I met. Like Lee is kind of like through you guys doing the project. It's kind of nice when you have a community of people who are like interested in the same thing. So
Well, you had Ben Scrivens from Fright Rags, who's a good friend of ours, and I actually
yeah,
got
so I
one
think
of
that
his
that's the
shirts
real
on right now.
connection. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
doing a Fright Rag shirt right now
Oh, yeah.
too.
Nice.
Yeah, and Ben, I'm pretty sure he was in tears the moment he told me like for his birthday he got called on stage with Shinedown.
Yeah, we were in
and-
Syracuse. We
Yep.
got you say happy birthday to him.
Yeah, so I love the connection, but when it was cool is when I was talking to Lee, So with Lee, you guys were in what, Memphis?
Yes.
Memphis?
Yes, that was Memphis.
Yeah. And he really raved about how great of a time he had. And I told him we could talk shit about those guys, you know, and he was like, no, like I had the best time.
I wish
But
you
he
would have
said,
talked shit.
I know, right? I was like, come on, let's throw something out there. But no, he said he had the best time, and what he loved about it was that you guys around the table, he's like, look, like you guys have some pretty big titles, you've done well for yourselves, and it's kind of like modest coming from him, like OG Ghostface.
Yeah.
And he loved that you guys were just hanging out and doing that. And I will say, I said, Lee, so how was the investigation part? And then he's like, oh, well, I came in late that night, and I think he was being a little bit chicken shit about getting into
Well,
the
there was actually a
investigation.
snowstorm. We got snowed in when we were
In
haunted.
Memphis, of all places,
Yeah.
where they don't really get snow. So
And
the
he-
city
he-
was shut down.
And he got
literally.
late coming. He had to visit his sister-in-law, I believe, or a family member, and he actually got stuck that travel that day.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to provide him an excuse. Like I was just going to throw him under for not doing the investigation.
But he joined us for
He's
the,
also scared. It's
yeah, he joined us for like the barbecue aspect of, where we had a sit down where we just talked about life and like
told
that's-
stories.
that's like the cool thing with the show, especially with Ty. Like when you cook food for people, like the idea of like it brings people together.
Mm.
And so we were able to talk about not only our careers, but his stories and him working with Wes Craven and the Ghostface and the Scream stuff. And it was just a really organic, fun way to kind of do that. And we just did that again recently with James Jude Courtney and stuff like that. So the guests we bring on, especially in the horror community, we can have those organic conversations that are fun, but actually be receptive of each other's backgrounds and careers and really just like have like a really good conversation.
Nice. Is the premise to kind of like in terms of like format that you, I guess you connect, you have a guest. Will you always have a guest? That was another question I had. Is like, is it something
if
if it
it's
works?
organic, we've been fortunate. Everyone we've had on the show is someone's a dear friend of ours.
Nice.
And so down the line, we'll have other barbecue chefs on the show, other actors, musicians. I know we record this week with John Fred, the drummer for Blackstone Cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he'll be joining us, and Dave Spinks will be back on the program, a paranormal investigator. We're not gonna. The show is about us telling these stories in the community, like a destination TV show. So if a guest can organically appear, that'd be awesome. But we're just as happy doing it ourselves. And obviously, with Ty does the bookings for our Airbnbs and stuff. And
Hold on this one, Ty.
right now,
It.
it's gone from like an old brothel to maybe a murder. Now it's double murder. Like I'm excited for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We're
So
gonna end
how
up,
did that
end up
come
in
up?
Waco at like at the Branch Davidians.
How did you guys even find out? So you booked the Airbnb because I thought right when you told me, I was like, well, it's the show, like for sure. That's why you're staying in this.
No,
place.
like we had no idea.
Literally 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, like
I think you typed in the address or something on Google.
Yeah.
Like one of you guys did.
Yeah.
I was out there with our video guy Sanjay, and he was doing like opening shots, and I'm googling, oh, this is such a cool front, and then it popped up in a news article. They did a story where they just did a study of the local news, like a double murder here, and there was a body buried in the basement that got moved. The previous owner during like the Civil War era, they relocated her body to a proper burial spot, but it's got such a weird vibe in here. Like we never anticipate filming this place, but like it's one of those things we're going to have to do it.
Yeah, because you look at it VRBO online, and it's like in place, and then you walk in, you're like, whoa, this place is different.
1820s.
Yeah.
Well, the couch, I'm not sure if it's an original piece, but if someone was going to be murdered on a couch, I feel like that the one you're sitting on.
Yeah, this is
Looks-
definitely a couch that would someone would be killed on for sure.
With a candlestick by Mr. Mustard
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
In the library.
in the library
This is probably a library.
of death.
Yeah.
So you guys had James Jude Courtney, and you guys were on a ship there. So that was Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
believe.
That was the USS Yorktown aircraft carrier.
So like in terms of booking something like that and like booking these places in where you're going to visit, do you guys have like an ongoing list and then you reach
Tell
out
us your,
and make contact?
your protocol and how you deal with
Yeah.
people.
my
I don't
proto- I call them up and I'm like, hey, can we investigate? And they're like, yeah, what do you want to do? And I explain to them what we're doing, and I really don't tell them who we are
Mhm.
until I get everything kind of done. And then when we show up, and they most of the time when they see Barry, they're like, hold on a second.
Is that guy?
Yeah. And then it turns into like a whole thing, and then it's a lot of fun. But that's usually how it turns up. These guys will send suggestions over of places in the cities that we go, and then I'll just start contacting the places, and put another producer on it until we find someone with a yes,
because we have to sign waivers, we have to do
Yeah.
NPAs, we have to, because some areas I assume eventually we have to do like the film, right? Like license
Footage releases.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
so-
gonna say because like, in terms of like a passion project, it's pretty damn serious in terms like we've seen even just like clips online. And if you're listening to this and you've been following, there's all these like little clips of segments, and I'm sold. Like the idea of, like you said, that kind of like the travel destination thing. Like I watch all these shows separately, but then tying them all together, I think is super cool. I'm a little bit biased, but like nothing to me beats like people sitting around a table, breaking bread, having drinks. Like it's the most honest human connection you can ever get. And that's what like Lee kind of spoke to as well. He's like, at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of humans around a table sharing stories. And I love that aspect.
We want it to be organic. I think, one of the kings, God rest his soul, Anthony Bourdain, kind of had that vibe with his travel where he's just immersed in the place and it doesn't matter. You could be a stall in the middle of Thailand that's, flies everywhere. And he's like, yeah, but I'm just going to talk to these people, or it could be the most
Waffle House in Memphis, like he's done.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
We just want it to be organic and do stuff with our friends and have a good time that's outside of our careers. We're lucky enough to be able to do it. Yeah. And why not? And have these stories. I think it comes down to more the stories and the camaraderie and the joking and ribbing each other than it is even the ghost hunt or any of that kind of stuff. That's kind of almost the icing on the cake is that part.
Yeah, that just comes together at the end, which is kind of cool about all this.
Yeah, like I think I would watch the show even without the paranormal investigation stuff, but that's even better. And I really do enjoy, from what I see so far, how the banter carries over into some of the paranormal investigations.
This is all day long.
Yeah, so Ty cuts them up pretty well. We're not giving away just enough of like kind of a tease. Yeah, we have so many great lines, very comedic stuff we say in these very serious situations that go over the head of like the other guests because they're not expecting us to make a blind Ray Charles joke or which has happened in Memphis. So it's like I think you watch these other shows in the paranormal space, they're very serious, and I understand where dealing with the afterlife there's a couth you need, there's a sense of protection. Like we're not here to desecrate, we're not here to make fun of, right? Maybe, but we're not here opening portals. We're not here to like create this crazy. We're here to learn the history and see if we can kind of talk to spirits and stuff like that. So, me doing that, I would do that my most pure way, which is making a joke to break the levity of it. But we get super serious at times, but then we're also not afraid to just be ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have fun in life, right? Why make it so serious? A lot of these shows, it's like, oh, there's a demon in every room, and it's this, and this, and there's no need for that. And then some of the shows, listen, I'm a fan of all of them, even the ones that are maybe a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
But some of the OGs, like say for Ghost Hunters, for example, that show was fantastic, but I'm sure it was hard for them to keep on air because sometimes they didn't find anything, and we're honest about it.
Okay.
And that's hard to do, I think, because you want, the networks, I'm sure, want scary, scary, scary. Look at this, flash, bang, boom. And, well, we went there and nothing happened. But here's the episode. Yeah. We're not afraid to necessarily do that. I think that's okay. Now, we haven't had that option yet.
No, it's actually got worse every episode. So
I still can't put my finger on why we keep ending up in Airbnbs like this. Like, this is not... We don't plan this at all. We find a place that will hold everybody that we have. And then when we get here, 30, 45 minutes ago now, it's like, oh, cool. Right. We're here.
I do believe there's an aspect of fate. Like just me personally, sometimes things happen where I'm like, it's just too coincidental. So like I'd be the one to go out there and say like, you three doing this and following your passions and kind of doing this project, being that organic and jumping out there. You all have careers. You're all doing well for yourselves. You don't need to be doing this. So I do think maybe there is some pull or calling to it, because even just from your story so far, and we're going to get into a few more. I have one question though. Who's the biggest skeptic in the group? Like going into this, is there one of you who was like, I don't know, or you're going to do the first with the doubt?
We're trying our best to not diffuse, but like debunk stuff in real time. Because a lot of times it's like, I know when we were in Fort Worth, we were playing around with gear, like we weren't sure if our radio frequency was affecting the spirit box and stuff like that, where it's like, well, maybe it was. So it's like we're trying to explain it in real time, react to it organically, but also try to be like, well, no, I shut the door, I knocked off the top of the radiator, which I have.
Yeah. Okay.
And stuff like that. So it's like stuff like that where it's the human aspect of what we're doing. but I think
we all go to it with our own skepticism. I'm probably the most skeptic out of the three of us, but I think
Okay.
I'm still waiting for the big prove it to me. Has weird
Yeah.
things happened? Yes.
like I've
Can
never
I
been
explain
touched.
them all?
Yeah.
No. But I'm still like, yeah, I still need to see a full body something. And I'm be like, all right, it's real.
But like Ty was scratched or tugged or something happened
Scratched
to
and
him.
tugged at the same
I was
time.
Yeah.
scratched and tugged.
Yeah.
I was molested.
It was at the brothel.
Wait, this isn't the OnlyFans, right? The scratch and tug. This is
no,
No,
the
that's
scratch and
okay.
tug.
That's the tug and scratch. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay.
That's our
Dude.
band name.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, yeah, Memphis. I got scratched on my back, so that was fun.
I think
But-
Ty's the target because he's probably the most apprehensive out of all of us.
Yeah, I don't like it. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
pick on Ty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of these like frightening experiences because I've noted a few. Like I'm watching the reels. I'm kind of following like your journey now as you guys are putting this together. Before we do that though, the bourbon I've never had, Boons Bourbon, right?
Boons.
So Tyler
Boons.
Boone, yeah. So how is it so far?
It's actually really, I mean, we
It's
made
super
old fashions.
Oh, you did old fashions,
Not
nice.
very, it doesn't have that alcohol burn that some of the other
No,
bourbons
it
do
doesn't.
or the rise. It's pretty smooth.
And from looking at the bottle, I'm pretty sure what was it like a cask strength? It was like 50.
It's a 4-year single barrel.
And what's the percentage on it?
54.3.
Nice. Okay, so if that's flowing smooth, then that's a
Yeah,
damn
and
good
Tyler,
bourbon.
the owner of the company, he's a musician as well and stuff, and so like he's super rad in the area, and he launched his company, and it's been doing really great. We actually found one in the store that he actually signed too. So,
Oh, that's so cool.
but yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And he's my bass player, Eric. They grew up in the same circles. He's known him since he was a kid. So it's kind of he's been to a few shows and stuff, and it's just a nice guy. And it's kind of cool to support him while we were here. Like, hey, let's get his whiskey and give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's cool. Just another like passionate side project, right? It's nice
Yeah.
to see. I think no matter what you're doing, you could be in a super successful band and you're doing well and you love that, but you're still there's other aspects, right, of being human and things you're interested in and passion. So it's cool
Yeah.
you could do that. I hope you have the hot sauce as well, which I need to try because I'm
Oh,
big
hot
hot sauce.
Please do.
fan.
The hot sauce is great. And then those are, again, passion projects. I'm a foodie. I love hot things. That was fun to do. And, as much as I love my first priority, which is Shinedown and playing drums, that's my first passion. It is a job now. And sometimes you want to get away from your job and do something else,
Like I said, I have to teach tomorrow, so that's why I do this and hang out
you
with
got more
cool people
patience
like-
than me. What age group?
Like senior level, like high school English classes. Yeah. So-
Okay, that's not horrible.
Yeah, you know what? For me, like a lot of people, it's like you'll meet someone who does elementary school, and they'll say, how do you deal with high school students?" And for me, I feel like I can deal with like I was not the best student myself, so I feel like I can relate a little bit more, or at least have maybe more patience and kind of put myself back to how I was as a student.
Sure.
But yeah, on the opposite end, I'm like, I don't know how you deal with like at one point when I was desperate for a job when I first got into teaching. I had to cover like a grade 7 class, and I was covering recess duty, and someone was like, "Oh, like he kicked me in the leg," and I was like, I don't know what to do. Kick him back in the leg. Like I was the worst middle school, elementary teacher, so high school is definitely my jam. But back to frightening experiences. For me, watching so far, I guess like it was the fan in the doorway that it like,
It was like a
and-
2-minute clip.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's a very- that was
Barry's face, like for someone now that I know that you kind of said you're even the first one to be a little bit more skeptical.
You were
There was
perplexed. We all were.
Yeah.
Yeah, the look on your face was like, okay, you could tell you're trying to think it through. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So
I mean, to
maybe
set
want
it
to explain
up-
that one.
Yeah, to set it up, I mean, Miss Molly's is a small place. It's like a 8-bedroom
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
tiny.
B&B at this point that used to be a brothel, but when you walk it, you go in at the bottom level and the door opens and it's stairs that go straight up. That's it. And then it opens up into this area and all like half circular area, and all the rooms are off of that. So it's like a common area that everybody who's staying there can go into, and then it's just the rooms separate of that. And there was a room that I had investigated, and it was benign. There was nothing happening. Left the room, whatever. We were mulling around. Next thing you know, we turn around, and the fan that was in that room is in the middle of the hallway, right in the walkway. outside that room, and I'm just like,
You would hear, we've
Who
heard
moved
footsteps.
this?
We would hear
It's
someone
old.
sneeze in another room. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing you could hide from us.
yeah, every floorboard in that place squeaks. I mean, it makes a noise. You're not getting away with anything.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting there. So we go finally investigate it. And what was weird, I think, did you pick it up?
What?
I think
The
you were
fan.
like, oh, dude,
Oh,
who
when I
put-
picked
yeah.
the fan up and the
Yeah.
bottom fell off. Yeah.
Picked the fan up, and it's one of those rotating plastic
Yeah.
tall fan. He picks it up, the bottom falls off. So whoever
It was
whatever
you had
would
to
have
pick it up
moved
with
that,
two
you have
hands
to
and move
hold
it.
the base because it
You
wasn't
couldn't
even
drag it
attached.
over the threshold; it would have fallen apart.
So again, I got no idea. It was just there.
There's a part in that episode that has not been released yet that I feel like ties everything together to
Yeah.
that room.
Mm.
When we were in Josie's room investigating, the spirit box was going off, and while we were there, we didn't acknowledge things that were being said. But
Okay.
going in post-production and hearing it, it told a whole nother story that pointed us to that room.
Wow.
But we didn't get it while we were there. So during editing, I'll text these guys and I'll be like, hey, we missed some shit. Like
Yeah.
something was really trying to tell us something. So
Yeah.
that whole episode 1 took a completely different turn than what we were actually there doing.
Yeah. Following, I mean, and there's the edits too, but like you're talking about it and it's kind of off screen. And I'm, again, I've had some experiences myself where I'm like a firm believer in all this stuff. But you watch TV shows and you're like, okay, let's see what's going on. And then so you're talking about the fan, and I kind of laughed almost like kind of because it seems this real that like you pan and it's like, oh no, the fan they were talking about is literally in the doorway. Like it's not
Yeah.
like it moved.
Because
in
we
the
thought,
room
like,
to the
again, we
side.
thought maybe Debbie, the
Innkeeper.
innkeeper,
Because she lives on site.
who's amazing. We were like, maybe she put it out there, but even still, if she'd done that,
We would have heard it.
we would have heard her move it, or just scuffle it along. And she also would have told us, because she was awesome. Like, she would tell us, hey, we're going out to smoke. This is me opening the door. Like, she was awesome. And so she was even like, dude, she heard nothing.
Wow. So you mentioned the spirit box. That was the correct term, right? In terms of like technology. So I wanted to ask, yeah, like because there's one so I guess is it the spirit box that kind of will translate? There's a couple of segments where you're with the other paranormal investigator, you're sitting around the table and
Yeah,
like
with
listening to.
Dave Spinks.
Yeah, he's actually here in the other room.
Oh, cool. Okay.
The ghost just attacked him, so he won't be able to.
Yeah.
Dave,
There's
you
boys
okay?
coming from the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
Some weird shit's happening.
So the spirit box is this what is one of the main tools? I was just curious about technology because like I followed these shows a bit, so I know a little bit, but I thought it was interesting kind of getting some language and even cooler that in post production you're
Yeah.
finding out some of this stuff.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the tech nerd. I'm the one that has all the techie ghost hunty stuff. And listen, the best tool you have is your ears and your eyes, honestly. And there's no scientific proof to any of these, but the concept is you have either an SB7 or an SB11, and that's basically a hacked radio, AM/FM radio, that can scroll through channels forward or backward super, super fast. So it's just static, but it's going through AM or FM or simultaneous airwaves.
Okay.
It's just, and you've heard it on the ghost shows, just that super annoying sound. And the idea is that the spirits could use that energy of the airwaves, that electromagnetic energy, and use it to communicate. And you do hear voices through it. And so what you do with the spirit box is that plugs into the spirit box. And all the spirit box is, for all you guitar nerds out there, is a noise gate pedal and a reverb pedal that are in chain. That's all it is.
I have both of those. I play guitar.
Yeah. So it's just a noise gate and a reverb in a cool looking box.
Okay,
so it
cool.
takes out the static of that radio signal. And then so the noise gate takes out the static, the reverb channel, you can crank that up. So when a voice comes through, it kind of accentuates it because sometimes it can be a little muffled and whatnot. But what's crazy about it is when you start getting communication back and forth, what has blown my mind is, say you'll get a female voice and it's answering a question. Next thing you know, a male voice can come in and answer a question or kind of shut up that person. And it's like, wait, this isn't normal. Or it'll be that, oh, you caught a radio wave and it's just a female on a radio wave. Well, then why did it repeat with that same voice a whole different answer? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So-
you're getting different voices on there and different personalities, which is
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, I mean, my wife's a computer engineer, so she's good with like circuit boards, and she's gonna be like, "Why are you upstairs playing with your guitar pedals?" And I'm gonna be like, "Can you help? Can you help me out here?
Yeah.
Make a spirit box."
Haunted. Yeah.
It made me think of like, so you talked about like sound waves and whatnot. A friend of mine knew I was going to jump on with you guys, and there was a recent story in like Pueblo, Colorado. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was a cemetery, and there was 911 calls coming from the cemetery, in the middle of the night. And when you play it back, like it's muffled, it kind of just sounds like hello, hello. And the goosebump part of it is that police went out there eventually and were like, okay, is something going on? Like, why is the call dropping? Like, no one's telling us what's going on. And when they got out there, it said no one had access to property. There was no evidence of anyone being in the building, but phone calls were coming from there with this like repetitive hello. And it's stuff like that where I do believe like it's energy, right? Like for me, in terms of like communication. So knowing a bit about it and kind of you guys using this technology, it makes the most sense to me. So that's why I wanted to kind of chat about it because
Yeah.
like obviously there has to be some kind of like medium to try to communicate, and you guys have had a fair share of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all electricity. I mean, that's kind of what keeps us running, right? Our nervous system is just electricity, and what happens when we pass? Where's that electricity go? If
Yeah.
scientifically matter can't be created or destroyed, it just changes form.
Who brought Bill
What
Nye
is
out
that?
there?
Barry's going deep, yeah. That, but it's,
Bill Nye, the paranormal guy.
I don't know about that. I'm a novice for sure.
But you guys are in Bowling Green. And I thought it was super cool because, obviously I'm a bourbon guy in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I still haven't been, which is like almost blasphemous at this point.
It's a
That
beautiful
I
area.
made so many friends and they're all like, come down, come tour the distillery, let's hang out and, drink and go to murder houses. And I'm just not,
Well, we know of one.
Yeah, we're in one right now.
You can stay in one if you'd like.
what's even cooler is that like it made me think of like because I always do my pairings, right? And I was like, what Bowling Green, Kentucky? I'm like, there's not too many distilleries out there, at least that are on the map. But it made me think of the John Carpenter connection, that a lot of what he wrote about was growing up in Bowling Green, Kentucky,
Yep.
and Halloween and visiting I think his father worked at the university. He used to visit like sanitariums and like so very cool.
His
like,
wife
just the whole-
Sandy's from here too, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay,
I
cool.
believe she is
That's-
Sandy Carpenter, I believe. I think that's her name.
Yeah, and so my brain's always just firing off on connections, but I just kind of thought how it was really awesome that you guys landed there, and it kind of comes back full circle. What's on the agenda? I know we chatted a bit before jumping on here in terms of like where you guys are headed, and a couple of the places that you're going to investigate. So what's on the docket?
We are going to the actual after we escape this place tonight, not get killed. We're gonna actually film at the Octagon House, which is in Franklin, Kentucky.
Okay.
Octagon Hall, yeah. It's a lot of Confederate soldiers, Civil War history, a lot of
It's a Civil War museum currently.
Yeah.
But there was a doctor that built the house. There was kind of used as a makeshift hospital during the war for both sides. They hid soldiers in the place.
people have died there.
Yeah, Dave Spinks, who's kind of our Yoda, our mentor for the show, and has been in the paranormal field for a very long time. Who's sitting on the other side of this camera.
Yep.
He had a connection with that place and the old owner and stuff. So he got us in and got us some really special access. So we're really excited to be a part of it.
And then we'll do the barbecue segment is at Smoky Pig.
Smoky Pig.
Smoky Pig, which we've heard everyone in town has said the pork shoulder is the thing to get. They say it's legendary. And then we're going to film at White Squirrel Brewery, which again is got a cool, unique story. We met the owner today, actually, driving through for lunch. Super rad dude, total character, which will almost like like if you're in a horror movie, like a he's that character you watch in a horror movie where you just like you pray he doesn't get killed because he's such a unique dude.
Yeah.
He's like the folly for like
Yeah.
he's a great character, very Stephen King like in terms of like personality and schizophrenia type
He's gonna
thing.
love this build up.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
He's gonna love this.
Awesome, dude. But yeah, we're gonna do all that, and then from there we have the Shinedown tour, and then when that ends, we head to Norfolk, Virginia, for a bunch of stuff. We have our first event that people booked us for, and it's called Afterglow Brewery. Brewing in Norfolk, Virginia. We'll do that. We'll do an episode based around that. But yeah, in the meantime, a lot of it's just on the stuff on the road. We do a lot of research, whether it's the barbecue, the beer, the
But
historical.
not the Airbnbs.
Right.
No research whatsoever on where
And
we're
we're gonna have to
staying.
start doing that because Ty's put us in some really shady places.
Yeah, I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not doing it on purpose.
I'm actually convinced that Ty is trying to have us both killed.
Uh,
Ty, are you on barbecue duty too? Because I know, like, obviously, from your background, or is it kind of like a general consensus? Some of the names of
I
places
think we
that have
all
been
kind
thrown
of
around?
jump in and cook.
I'm not really. I'm learning from them.
He scored one hell of a pork butt though.
He did.
I had James Jude Courtney, Michael Myers himself, say it was some of the best scoring he's ever seen.
Some of the best knife work. He was excited.
Yeah.
Good knife work.
That's pretty hard to beat.
Ty's
There was like
definitely the barbecue guy.
Yes.
Ty and
Yeah.
I both love to cook and do barbecue, but he's the one kind of curating the recipe when we do it on, or like we're trying to possibly pair it sometimes with the location that we're at.
Yeah.
Cool.
Memphis style, Carolina style, that kind of thing. And if you're in an area that
Murder
doesn't really
style.
do barbecue necessarily, or they're not known for it, then we're going to try to do something a little more unique. We tried to here, and the idea was, I guess Kentucky is known for barbecued mutton,
okay.
but we couldn't source the mutton in time, so we're not
So
sure.
now
what
we're
do.
just gonna, I don't know, grill some ribeyes and make like a cowboy dinner
Yeah,
in a cemetery. So
In a cemetery.
yeah, why not?
why not?
Beauty. I thought about if you're like looking over a brisket, like you're up sometimes in the wee hours of the night, maybe 3 a.m. witching hour. Like, so if I feel like if you're on brisket duty, you might be encountering a few bonus segments.
Well, we
while doing that.
talk to us about Rectech. Like, what's the
Here's the thing about brisket duty and having a pellet grill like a Rectech is you don't have to get up at night. You put that
Oh.
thing on and you let it go overnight. You wake up the next morning, you wrap it, and it pretty much cooks itself. You're not tending a fire. So that's the one thing I like about using Rectech's products. What is you throw it on, you let it go, and you wake up the next day to some really good food.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to torture yourself and do a stick
Yeah.
burner, you can.
I don't want to be up
Yeah.
at 3 a.m. at all, especially on this stuff.
Yeah, not on this
So-
tour, no.
I would never go check on the brisket.
Okay. Next
would
day,
just be-
brisket's absolute shit. Just didn't look over it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I didn't go out there.
I'm gonna have to listen back and because like I haven't gone on my barbecue like or smoking journey yet. My brother-in-law is really into it, but he has like super primitive and he loves it. Like he's just kind of like he has the wood, he's tending to the wood. And I know there's technology out there. I have a few other friends
Yeah.
who
There's an
dabble.
art to doing it with wood, and I do enjoy that when I'm really going to spend the time. But for like this, when we're running and gunning and just need to cook something, so much nicer, so much more consistent when you use something like the Rectech pellet grill kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as much as there's like this like romanticism of like tending to the fire and stuff, like it really does come down to very scientific in a sense, I guess, where you could dial in, exactly how you want to run it, what temperatures. I know that much, so it makes sense with like technology moving forward that you'd have.
Yeah, and you can
amazing
easily
things like
repeat the results, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true
Sometimes
in
you
terms
hit
of being
that stall
consistent.
and it's like, oh, my fire wasn't this, or oh, I didn't catch it and it got too hot and so it got a little burnt. All those variables are taken out of the equation, which is nice.
This is probably going to be one of the worst questions that I ask you guys, but I thought it'd be fun anyway.
Uh-huh.
So one meat, two sides. So you have to go with like one type of meat.
That was Ty's nickname in high school.
Yep. How'd you know? Did a ghost tell you that? That came through the spirit box.
I had last night. I had this weird like premonition, and like, yeah, I kind of had this message like ask about the one meat and two sides. So I mean,
That was
clearly
his
this is
way
message.
message. This is the messenger.
Yeah. It won't be two sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I
So
had
what do you
to
like?
pick, if I had to, are you asking us what
Yeah,
were you-
yeah. So I'm just curious because like I eat myself, like I would go. I guess I go brisket. And even I'm doubting myself as I say it's like brisket. I'd go like mac and cheese and cornbread.
That yeah. If I'm gonna pick a meat, I'm gonna go with a ribeye all day. And then I'm gonna go with Christie's mac and cheese. My wife makes some killer mac and cheese, and I'm gonna go with that.
Nice.
So one more side. I don't know.
Drugs or anything? Like, what do you-
Drugs.
Yeah, Adderall.
Drugs. Adderall.
Yeah.
Adderall would be a good one.
I'm gonna do braised short ribs of some sort
Mm.
with baked potato and green beans, but with like olive oil and sea salt.
Oh, one of my favorites too. Now I'm doubting myself as you guys share yours, especially with Adderall. But
I like cooking
Yeah.
braised ribs, though. That's one thing I'm good at.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go traditional barbecue meat, it's going to be pulled pork all day long. But my answer that came to my head was charbroiled New Orleans style oysters with collard greens and a grilled potato salad. I make a mean grilled potato salad that I absolutely love.
If we're having to pick like barbecue meats, not steak, I'm going to go dino ribs, beef ribs, big dino rib.
Those are too rich for me. I mean, I like them.
Give me one.
Shredded beef is good.
That's just a good piece
of beef barbacoa or something.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those questions. I feel like this was like me asking someone like their favorite horror movie, which we'll get into a bit as well. But it's like the idea of like you're mentioning all these things, and like that's why barbecue is the best shared around at a table, like platter style. I wanted to mention like Shinedown doesn't have any Toronto tour dates right now, right?
No, we don't have any Toronto or Canadian dates this year.
Okay.
We're looking at that for next year.
Okay.
We're opposed to filming going up there ourselves and filming an episode up there.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then even that in terms of like so one place that came to mind was the Distillery District. So like downtown, there's this like cobblestone, it's almost preserved in time. It's like Victorian era cobblestone. And it was from like the Gooderham and Worts. So they came over from England. They started a distillery here. And the whole story and lore behind it is that, well, it's famous because during Prohibition in the US, they kept making whiskey and Al Capone would send his people over to then take whiskey back to the US and then bootleg it, which I thought was really cool. But James Wirtz, his wife, like when they came over, they were super successful. His wife was giving birth to their child and passed away. He suffered from severe depression, and then they found him in the local well dead as well. So there's a lot of like
in this house.
Yeah.
the same story that happened in the house. But yeah, so I thought it was really cool in terms of like kind of having the alcohol relation, because it's still operating. They do beer there. They still do like whiskey, gin, vodka, all the spirits, all of the spirits. And so I thought that'd be like a really cool place. So I'm just like, what I'm trying to say is I want to be part of your show is what I'm trying to get at.
No, for sure.
If we're in that area, we'd love to have
the
you.
last time we were in Toronto, we were checking into the hotel. Out of the elevator stepped Chris Rock and the producer of the Spiral movie, because they're filming that Saw movie up in Toronto at the time. So it was super interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did the Saw panel for Rue Morgue, and all of that, like I guess like over the years, was filmed in Toronto. So I had some really fun stories about them navigating.
I don't know what that says about Toronto, that a serial killer with toys is killing people, but
right, very very on brand for Toronto. So we mentioned the
long
movies.
winners.
About like, so because of kind of like the foundation of like what I do here, I wanted to know kind of like if you guys, first of all, like were you even into horror movies growing up, and if so, was there one? It doesn't have to be the most like your favorite, but maybe the most influential or something you first remember watching that kind of like even like sparked or intrigued your love for spookiness or horror?
As a kid, my parents gave me the copy of Monster Squad. And so when I was 6 years old, that was like, and I grew up watching RoboCop, Predator, Poltergeist, Child's Play on just repeat. But Monster Squad, it wasn't until later I saw Stand By Me, but like the supernatural connection again of people coming together to kind of solve the mystery or end the evil, eradicate it. I don't know. I just kind of always resonated with that. And I think for me, horror movies, I like that where unwitting strangers have to work together to kind of figure something out. Lost Boys, another troop where a bunch of nobodies get together and help each other. I enjoy slasher stuff, but for me, I like the cerebral with like a bit of humor, but also, I mean, you talk about vampires and werewolves, it's not really seeped in truth, but it feels real as opposed to some demonic serial killer that can't be stopped in New York City subway. Like it's just, I love it, but I don't have a lasting impact with me.
Right.
I'd say for me, Exorcist is what kicked it off for me. Growing up in a Catholic household, seeing that movie probably a little younger than I should have been when I saw it, because I did not sleep for quite a while. But that movie,
you just shared that with your daughter too.
I did just share it with my 14-year-old daughter, and she thought it was silly. She wasn't scared at all.
Really? I thought about that.
That's something great now. Is she and I? That's what we do. That's our time to get, because she's a teenager. She doesn't want to hang out with dad. I'm not cool. but we do watch horror movies together. And she, much
That's
like
awesome.
John and myself, likes the cerebral ones. She's gonna watch. We watched The Nun with
We
her.
watched the Nun, the Grudge,
Yeah,
like all
she loves
that.
that slasher. She's like, it's just blood and guts. And I think what started her on that path was Stranger Things. Really got her
Cool.
on that path, and that's what really got her into it. She's like, I want more and more and more. So she's really digging it. And that's a big bond for her and I.
Stranger Things is such a gateway. Stranger Things was such a great way, a gateway for kind of bringing you into horror. It's kind of like fun and playful, but at times it gets super dark. But I wanted to quickly mention the whole exorcism thing. It's funny because growing up, my parents were very relaxed. Like I come from like an immigrant family, Portuguese, Italian, and the shit I watched at a young age was just like uncanny. Like why was I watching some of this stuff at such an early age? But it was like even though I still watched it probably way too young, The Exorcist was the one where like my mom, who grew up like very like Roman Catholic Portuguese, was
Yeah.
like, look, you can watch all these slasher movies, you can watch Michael Myers and Child's Play and all that stuff, but they're like, you do not watch The Exorcism because, when we watched it, like we all slept in the same room for months on end, and I think so. Some of that build up is what made it even like more scary for me. And the idea of like before, like you don't even get anything in the movie yet. They're just walking up to the room and there's like the cold breath. And for me, that still scares the shit out of me. But it's very cool that your daughter's like, yeah, I don't like it's not really doing anything for me.
She's stronger than I am for sure.
Well, I think the Exorcist stuff. I've born and raised Catholic, Christian, all that. And I think for me, there was like it seemed too real. It was almost like
Yeah.
when anytime like a religion gets brought into the horror aspect of stuff, I think it hits differently. It feels heavier. Like there's a brevity to a.
Mhm.
And I've had people on my podcast, like a demonologist, Dr. Richard Gallagher, who's worked with the Vatican and talks about all that stuff. It's very like interesting to me because it's like it's seeped in faith and religion, but there's unknown entities and presences and stuff that science can't prove that you're trying to like battle, and it's just awesome. Yeah, I love all that stuff.
And
I
Ty,
don't
for
know
you,
about loving it.
Ty's favorite horror movie was Pretty in Pink.
It
Yes.
was. I really, me and Ducky, we had a bond.
Yeah, I like that. You
We're,
look.
we're a lot alike. Shut up, John.
So we're just going Pretty in Pink for Ty, or do you actually have one, Ty, that you also watched way
Actually,
too
no,
young?
I'm with Barry. Exorcist scared the shit out of me as a kid, and I don't think I've watched it all the way through.
Really,
Yeah, I watched Poltergeist. I love Poltergeist.
that was
So,
great.
Poltergeist
Yeah.
2 is
Yeah,
better
That's
than
not
the first
nearly
one.
as
Yeah.
not nearly as scary as
Exorcist was just
Poltergeist
that hit
2 is
different.
better than the first one. I will die on that hill.
I'm gonna put that in my stories. I love doing like the poll. I'm gonna put like Poltergeist 1 or 2 because I think I might side with you in terms of number 2.
Two. I think is better.
The
Yeah.
two, the shaman, the scary guy,
Oh
Yeah.
and then the actual horror attached to the actress's death, and like how she died and stuff like that. There's such a crazy story with her life.
Mhm.
I don't even know because they have that series on Shudder. I don't know if you watch Curse Films.
Yeah, she died of sepsis, I believe, or something at a young age. The
Yeah,
actress who played the girl.
I don't know. I don't even know if they've done that one yet, but they should. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, it's
no one important
again,
enough's listening to me to
her braces
dive
come
into it.
off, like they attack the mouth, like that shit's so
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. In terms of like, and I'm going to be conscious of time here because you guys need to grill some ribeyes in a cemetery. In terms of like, you've done a couple of collabs with like breweries. So there was one, I forget the name of it. You guys even had like your own branding, if I'm not correct. Or am I just making this shit up because it should happen?
No. We are doing that stuff the thing in May, we're unleashing a beer with them.
Yeah.
But like we partnered with every brewery, barbecue place gone to has been super receptive to what we're doing, actually enjoys having fun with us. And so I know in Memphis, Ghost River Brewery, they were awesome. Like they're filming all sorts of funny content, being part of the stuff.
Nice.
Us behind the bar having fun. I think that for us is like we want people to enjoy what we're trying to do, but also we have no ego.
There's no pretentiousness.
We want to have fun. We want to learn about your place. And the cool thing we do, especially with the barbecue and beer, these are all mom and pop places that fortunately sustained the blow of the pandemic shutdown. And our thing is like going in there and just like actually enjoy and like bringing light to these places, meeting the owners, the staff, and just having fun.
And
Yeah.
I never even thought of that, the idea of like, there's that element too. Like you guys can go in, have an idea of like what you want to shoot. you're gonna talk and hang out and eat, but then there's that human element where like, yeah, how
Well, Ty
like,
runs a
involved-
tight ship. Like I've seen him slap local people just to get him in shape. But like
Yeah.
again,
Like,
Allegedly.
organically,
Like-
it just comes off so easy for us. We have to capture like the brewing process and learn about the beers and do flights and the core stuff you're going to see every episode. But the conversations are never the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, you will pick up something like some breweries and some barbecue places have a ghost they can talk about. So it kind of
that
ties all
happened
together.
also in Memphis. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, this is
Andy the ghost.
Andy's chair. He passed away. He was local and he tossed his beers around. We didn't book the place because we knew it was haunted. They just had a
Yeah.
story to
Yeah.
you know.
Thanks, Ty. Again, anything Ty
It-
books is actually super haunted.
Hey,
We're
I'm here
gonna
for
we're
it.
gonna go to the local Target later, and Target. And
Target.
75 people got murdered here this morning.
Yeah. No other Target has experiences, but Ty
Yeah,
decided.
no
to
other
go
Yeah,
to
Tarjay
yeah.
in the world.
Right. They shipped all the
Just
dead
the one
bodies
in
here.
Bowling Green.
You're right.
Yeah, you're just like this like beacon of trauma, like just everything.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So in terms of like upcoming events, so if there's anything you guys want to kind of share, I figure this would be your chance to kind of like tease if you can. You kind of mentioned a few other guests, other stops. What's in the works?
Well, we are here in Bowling Green, so this one's obviously happening. Then we
Norfolk.
Norfolk would be the next one because Shinedown's touring, and we're not doing this while touring because we usually only get a day, maybe
Too
2 days
busy.
off.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
busy, so we schedule around the Shinedown schedule. So the next one will be in Norfolk. We've got some exciting ones coming up in Texas.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
we haven't locked in yet, but there's gonna be some more Texas dates, which would be great.
Massachusetts.
Area is happening in July.
Yeah.
July.
Sure.
Question mark?
Question mark. Yes, those are probably the next few. I know we definitely want to do something in the St. Augustine area of Florida,
Yeah.
which is the oldest city in America. It's
Mhm.
1500s is the
Yeah.
time frame of that, and it's right up the street from where I live. I actually got married there, so I kind of know the area really well, and it has a good story with me.
Cool.
So those are kind of the ones. And then now with John doing a lot of the social media work, people are reaching out to us, and it's already
Mhm.
kind of just taking a
Yeah, like
life of its own. To where like, hey, you should come
Pennsylvania,
here. Hey, you should come
Wisconsin.
here.
It's been rad.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think coming back full circle, like there's no shortage of people who want to like eat, drink, hang out, and like speak to their stories,
Right.
right? And I think that's why,
Yeah.
like you said, like it kind of comes back to the paranormal stuff is the icing on the cake, and that's why you guys can walk away and say, you know what, there wasn't too much here, even though that hasn't happened yet because of Ty. But like you can walk away and say, yeah, you know what, we didn't really find much during this investigation, but I would still watch the show because it's a fun element, but it's not all about that. Where I guess
Correct.
and that's what makes it unique is that other shows, if you're going full on paranormal, kind of like Barry, what you mentioned, like if you're to sustain that and things aren't happening, and maybe then you start feeling like you have to play it up because like this is your whole show. Where
I
you
would
can come
love
out
a
of it-
demon to latch on to Ty one of these episodes, but
leave me out of it.
we're just as happy just learning about the place and the people that run it. And yeah, the history's been super rad for me. Just like
Yeah.
super.
I think all three of us are kind of history buffs, so that kind of really gets at our core. We'd enjoy the history of these places and the stories and the locales and the local flavor. Even though Miss Molly's was a brothel, then you get to kind of feel Fort Worth, and you get those stories.
The Prohibition era, like all these
Prohibition
different eras you grow up in, like this.
Ernestine and Hazel's
Yes.
in Memphis, was a juke joint for the African American musicians to go hang at during segregation. So it was their
Yeah.
place to get away that just happened to have a brothel upstairs. So that kind of history is fascinating.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I interviewed Kim Moser, who she's from Halifax, local Canadian here, and she's a paranormal investigator, and she has a show that she runs. And we were talking about, and it was interesting because she was saying if in the least, like the history is rich, and I think when you visit a place and you get the history and you get to pull that energy from it, like that's just as important. But the other thing that she noted was that there's been moments where she said that she's had some experiences where like they just kind of like stuck with her, and she went home and she said she wasn't sure if it was just kind of like the experience itself kind of like leaving an impression on her or something kind of coming back with her. But have any of you kind of felt like you brought home something like after it's all said and done, and like not that
Well,
you're
Ty brought
necessarily
home a doll.
Actually? what kind of doll?
No, I didn't bring a doll home.
I don't think anything's come home, but I did there was a mimic that was kind of using my voice when we were in Memphis.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't saying anything, these guys would hear
It
me,
got
my
affected us
voice.
and then one of our video guys.
And recently at home, last week before I left home, my wife was like, "Hey, what?" She thought I called her, and she's like, "What? What do you need?" And I didn't call her, so
This
I
is
don't
the
know
first
if
time I
that's
heard
following me
this.
around.
Really?
But yeah, that happened last week. So
That's crazy.
I
And
don't
again,
know.
back to like the phone call, like the mysterious phone calls and using that as communication.
Yeah,
Your wife's gonna pull you from this show, guys. You guys might be out of a show with Barry because his wife's gonna be like,
your wife's gonna pull from the show. It'll be ties.
Yeah. It'll be Ty.
Ty's wife's like, if you want this mac and cheese as your side, you better get
Yeah.
out of there.
You're done doing this dumb shit.
All right, guys. With that being said, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out and do this.
pleasure,
Like
Ethan.
I'm a fan of everything you guys do. I feel like it's very clear and transparent like how enthusiastic you guys are about what you're doing and just how like you mentioned before like organic it is. I'm a fan. I'm excited to follow the journey. The last thing I have to ask, and like John, I've kind of asked some questions of you too, is like, what's the end goal here in terms of like you have this professionally shot stuff, it's in the can, you have great stuff, edits chopped up. Is it to get picked up by a network? Are you guys going to kind of do your own thing? And when would you like to hopefully unleash
I
this to
think the
public?
perception is when people do shows like this is like, oh, we're gonna be on the best network and get on network and all this. That's great, but at least for me, and I think I speak for ourselves, we're not gonna we want 100% creative control of our
Mhm.
goals, who we're gonna talk to, how we're gonna act, how we're gonna say, what we're gonna do. And the minute you start getting involved with some networks, they start to curb you and say, like we talked about earlier, Barry mentioned earlier, like you need to put a scare seat in it. If it didn't happen, we're not going to do that.
Mhm.
And so we have the luxury of being able to get this professionally done and just bet on ourselves again and just put it on ourselves. So, but we have a ton of options. I know we've had calls and stuff like that with people. So, information about that stuff will kind of come out slowly. But again, as long as we're all happy, we maintain our creative consciousness for all that stuff. Again, I think we'll be.
Yeah, I think worst case scenario it becomes a YouTube show that we have control over, or it gets picked up by maybe it's an Amazon Prime thing where you still have control because Amazon allows for that,
Mhm.
or it does go to a network. We're not saying no to that. It's just having the creative control to do it the way we're doing it right now. No
Yeah.
questions.
Because no one's done this show before, and so again, I want to be very protective of that.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, there's fragments. There's everyone's kind of done something, but they
Correct.
have never tied it all together. Which it's
Correct.
crazy to me because it seems like the most genius idea. You're like, we all kind of again sit around
Yeah.
and eat and drink together. Maybe we don't all like do paranormal investigations, but that's where that kind of like that magic happens. And like it translates very organic in terms of like the clips you've been showing. And you got to leave the Billy Ray Charles jokes in there. You can't have networks taking out the
Yeah, no, I'm all about it. We say some questionable stuff.
Well, we were being told that Ray Charles used to stay in one of these rooms at Ernestine Hazel's, and this guy goes, "Well, did he see it?" And it just went over the guy's head. But it was such a one-liner. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
But again, like we have the right people around us. Our agent books Bobby Flay and Food Network stars, so it's like we're starting to build the team out around us. That great videographers. And so basically, as long as we have the right people around us as we kind of grow, that's the most important thing for me because I have true faith that this is going to have a great impact. Takes a lot of hard work and stuff, but we're doing it the right way.
I think it's the equivalent to what we see in music right now too, where it's you can kind of circumvent the traditional system by if you just put a product out there, and you guys have kind of been just hitting the ground in terms of like networking and putting out the great media pieces that by the time it's something you've already built that yourselves. Like you said, you have the following and people reaching out to you, and you're done one season, and you could, if you wanted, you could plan 3 more in advance because of just the traction that it's gained.
Like I'm just pissed we did do this during the pandemic. We had 3 years off. Like we could have fucking killed that.
What's nice is none of us are. We all know how to work hard. We're not opposed to hard work. We've worked very hard in our own lives and our own careers. So we surround ourselves with equally, if not more, hardworking people to make this that much more successful and fun. Because I need people that are going to keep up with the 3 of us, and that's not exactly an easy task.
Yeah, and that's what I
section.
said at the beginning, is that like following you guys even on social media, you're busy. You got with all of your individual projects and working, like you're busy. Like even right now, if like we look at like Shinedown, like you're like, oh, I just finished rehearsals. Let's fly out immediately the next day or the same night even, I guess, and then
Into a murder house.
into a murder.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then leave here back to the second rehearsals to go start the tour.
So for those of you listening, I appreciate you listening to the Whiskey Morgue podcast. What I want to know in the comments more than anything, I usually ask what you're drinking, what you're watching, is like, where should these guys go? What should they be drinking? Give me like the breweries, give me the list. Let's just create like a big brainstorm in the comments in terms of like where these guys should hit up next. But thank you, gentlemen. I'm gonna have a last little bit of bourbon here. Well, cheers to that.
Cheers to
And
that.
with that, stay spooky, everyone. Cheers.
Pinkies out.